Hey everybody, welcome to the Dude Seriously Show. Well, it's finally upon us, guys. Black Panther is here in theaters, and the hype is real. So we saw this film on Thursday night in theaters, opening night. So Tim, what'd you think of Black Panther overall before we dive in?
This was a movie I wasn't super hyped for a while, but I got really hyped right before it came out.
I think I bought into too much of the hype, and I've intentionally tried to not do that with recent films, but this one, it just continued to come out with more and more positive reviews. So I thought, wow, this really is going to be as great as they say, and it just, for me, didn't live up to those expectations. Not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that I got wrapped up in all those high Rotten Tomato reviews, and it just didn't live up to those expectations.
So I had a lot of hype for this movie. The trailers were epic. The music was epic. The album that they put out with all the collabs, it was awesome. And there are parts of the movie that I'm not really crazy about, but overall, I mean, I think that it holds up. It's very contained. It doesn't have a lot of Easter eggs to the other MCU films, and about halfway through, I felt kind of weird about that because, even the Guardians movies on the other side of space have references that were like, oh, there's an Infinity Stone or there's Thanos. But it clicked for me about halfway through. Wakanda is this secluded place, and if we had too many of these references of like, oh, there's Captain America and things like that, it would feel like too small of a universe, and we wouldn't get that true seclusion feeling that Wakanda is supposed to have. Just the vibe of Wakanda was so great.
Yeah, it was very cool, and I know in the books, and I think they translated what I know from the books to this film really well as far as Wakanda goes. I know it's supposed to be this secluded place, it's supposed to be tiny, but it's supposed to be kind of hidden from everything. But then what's hidden behind the shell or whatever is super advanced. Like more advanced than anything else in the world. The one question I had was, is Wakanda really only has one major city? I mean, it kind of caught me off guard that there wasn't more to Wakanda than that.
But I think we see a lot of that. We see the farms, we see the waterfall, we see where M'Baku lives, so we get a lot of vast setting pieces. So that's interesting. I mean, there's a lot inside of Wakanda, but the way that it's presented inside of the bubble, it does feel contained, but I guess that's one of those things where when you make the jump from comic books to movies, you're gonna have to sacrifice certain things. But overall, looking at it just within the MCU, I think they nailed Wakanda.
Yeah, it kind of had an otherworldly feel to it, almost like, and I'm not trying to say this was a ripoff or anything, but it almost to me had a version of Asgard built into it.
Yes.
It felt like you were almost on a different planet. It was so advanced.
I like the fact, though, that it still drew back from traditional culture and, with respect to the things that are around it, such as the costuming. I would honestly say that this is an Academy Award level costume design. It is absolutely some of the best costume design I've seen in any film in many, many years.
And you can also take that into the makeup as well, because some of the makeup you see is just amazing.
It was so awesome. Like the female guards for Black Panther, the red uniforms,
yes,
and even the choreography for them, how they all moved with their spears. I mean, I feel like that is going to be something in the MCU that just sticks out. We talk about these scenes, like in the first Avengers movie where we all geeked out when Iron Man hits Cap's shield. Yes. I think this could be one of those moments for sure.
Yeah.
I really like some of the practical looks of costumes, like Mike said, and the makeup stuff. It was some of the CGI that let me down. I mean, there were some instances where the CGI just didn't look up to snuff. Because you could see areas where they were filming outside, but you could tell it was CGI, and I just thought in my own mind, could you not have filmed that in an actual location so it'd be even more believable?
Well, I hate to let you down, but Wakanda does not exist.
I didn't say they had to go to Wakanda. I just said they could film it outside.
I'm just teasing. Yeah. Really, for me, I liked a lot of the CGI, especially if you go back and look. There's some people that have done some edits of the trailers. The first time Black Panther flips over the car, from the first trailer versus the last trailer right before the movie, the CGI in the trailers alone changes so much.
And this is what I find difficult with CGI today in any film, really, is that it seems washed out if it's a bright afternoon. And that battle scene, it just seemed very washed to me. The colors were not as vibrant. When it was very clear that it was CGI, it was even more obvious. So in that respect, I was a little... It took me out of the scene. And I was watching it on IMAX, so it was enormous. So it was, unfortunately, very obvious at certain times that you could just see things that were not clearly real. And I think that whenever you deal in the real world, and again, we've talked about this, it's Wakanda, so I know there's going to be otherworldly feel to it, but I still have to have some grounding somewhere.
And talking about practical effects makes me want to bring up the suit.
Sure.
Because when we first meet Black Panther in Civil War, he's wearing a full practical suit with a helmet he can take off. He looks great. He looks big. He looks intimidating. He looks, pardon my language, he looks badass.
Language.
You see him in this movie when he gets his new kinetic suit, and it just doesn't seem to work quite as well for me. It's not something I gravitated quite as much to.
I think it's the Iron Man effect. Problems with Iron Man is he's always powering up, and if he's on, for Iron Man, for example, Mark 42, Mark 82, well, my gosh, at some point, you're going to hit the maximum greatness a suit can be. And the same thing I think is with Black Panther. I think, my gosh, the first suit was already awesome.
Yeah,
what more do you
exactly.
have to do to that suit?
Yeah, and how can all that fit into a necklace?
It's the same problem that we have with Iron Man.
Exactly.
That this issue that it's in a bracelet or it can be pulled from miles away. That kind of thing just, it continues to bother me. And I know it's superhero films. I know we're supposed to enjoy all that stuff.
You can suspend your disbelief so far.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Before it just becomes a kind of a,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm totally going to counter. I love the kinetic suit. I thought it was cool. I thought it was neat, this idea. I don't know if it's from the comics or not, the kinetic suit, but it makes sense with vibranium, what it does on Cap's shield and how we've seen it act in the past. It makes sense to integrate that into the suit. And I thought the purple suit was interesting, that the energy was purple. The Lego figure, not in this set actually, but the original Lego figure actually has blue tracing on the suit. Okay. And I wonder how that would look, because in the comics, Black Panther's suit is black with blue accents on the shadows when he turns.
Well, and you know in comics, like even when people that have black hair or black suits or whatever, they show the highlights on the suits as blue.
Right.
It's the same
It's showing a reflection or a highlight, so it makes sense to go blue. I think for me the purple was a bit much.
Yeah.
It seemed a bit extreme.
the Purple Panther.
Yeah. Yeah.
Da-da, da-da, da-da.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's Pink Panther.
Pink, close. You were
I guess
close.
it was kind of pink though.
Hey, I used to like Pink Panther.
Yeah.
Used to?
Yeah, I haven't watched him since I was 10.
Yeah, because his favorite Panther's the Black Panther now, so I mean,
Yeah,
bumped
exactly.
him out.
You didn't
Long
watch
time
Pink
ago.
Panther leading up to this, the prequel film with Steve Martin.
I would like to buy the burger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
I would like to buy a burger.
Oh, no. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yee, wow. And then, there, of course, there's the James Bond aspect. That when I was sitting in the theater, I leaned over to my buddy and I go, James Bond. Because it was very clear. When his sister starts to walk him through her lab and says, and this item does this, and this item does
Like
this.
Q.
Just like Q. I mean, it was, I even said that to him. I said, and she's Q.
And did you catch the Back to the Future reference in that sequence? Talking about
The sneakers?
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
sneakers.
sneakers.
But she says, talking about shoes that lace themselves from
Right.
those movies Dad used to
to
watch
watch.
from the
I didn't
Americas.
even get that.
Back to
Yeah.
the Future self-lacing sneakers.
Yeah, I
Yep.
heard that. I know what movie she was referencing at all. That went right by me. But it was funny. I mean, nonetheless, because everybody kind of laughed. Of course, the sneakers, and she's like, because you, and he's like, okay, seriously, and I love that.
Dude, seriously?
Dude, seriously. I think, in some respects, he is being set up to be the new Iron Man for the next phase.
To that point, he's often compared to Iron Man. I mean, he's another billionaire who's actually supposed to be richer than Iron Man. He's got a whole country's wealth behind him.
The casino scene was so awesome.
Yeah,
Oh my
and again,
gosh.
clearly Bond.
Yeah,
Clearly
yeah.
Bond. That whole scene was.
If you've seen Skyfall, it felt almost exactly like that. I had almost like a deja vu kind of moment watching that. I love Skyfall. It's probably one of my favorite Bond movies. But to have that set and set up that whole incursion with Claw, I totally got Bond vibes out of that.
Well, and he even has his own Oscar. I mean, as far as his CIA connection that is exactly played as a Bond and Oscar moment, where he's like, look, I've already got people on the ground. James, don't mess this up for us, kind of thing. Yeah. And T'Challa's like, look, I've got my orders from my country. I have to fulfill them. So I thought, this is great. You're getting that interplay just like you did with those two characters.
Yeah, and seeing Everett Ross again was so awesome. And the way that his arc goes in the film, I feel like we're going to see more of him. I feel like he could be a stable character for the Black
new Coulson.
Wow.
I thought that myself, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he's the connecting between Civil War and all those characters, because a lot of them ran into him, and T'Challa.
Yes. I want Everett Ross as the new Phil Coulson.
He's got the same kind of, it seems like he's got the same kind of feel, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he may be a little more hardcore than Coulson was in the original movies, but he's got that, genuine and kind of trustworthy feeling to him, so hopefully so.
Here's the thing I like, though. We talked about Black Panther being the new Iron Man, so to speak. Now we're talking about Ross being the new Coulson. I like A being the new B, because there's something that we love about these Marvel films, and they do catch some criticism for, having the Marvel formula. Personally, I don't really see that.
You mean it's been Disneyfied?
This doesn't feel like a Marvel movie.
No, not at all.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
I want different.
No.
Ragnarok was different. Volume 2 was different. I want different.
They're going to have to pass the torches anyway. So maybe that's their process of doing it.
Yep, they're setting themselves
You're not going to
up.
get a literal second Tony Stark Iron Man character. You're going to get someone else who kind of is that character, but their own thing.
Yep, and I love that. It makes me really excited for what's going to coming forward.
Yep. Well, one of the interesting things to me about the Black Panther, which again, he's always been a personal favorite character because he's just so cool, is the fact that he is the first African-American mainstream character in a comic book. I think it was in '66, maybe around July he came out. So he actually predates the Black Panther movement, which was also in '66. But then you think about, okay, I know everybody's loving the fact that he's getting his recognition now, but we've had other characters like Blade, or who had 3 movies, or Spawn, who had his own movie, or even Hancock. I mean, I think you can see that everybody gets a little bit of their moment in the sun.
And to that point, we've had other African-American superheroes, as you just mentioned, but the thing that sets Black Panther apart is that he is respectable. I mean that as Black Panther, I mean that as T'Challa, and I actually mean that maybe most of all as Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman is just the most likable guy on the planet.
Yeah, and not to mention those characters that I did mention, which did predate him, were more anti-heroes, like a vampire or a demon or whatever. He, like you said, he seems like a genuinely good and positive character, which is a good thing.
And he's somebody that's relatable. Wakanda is its own thing. It's out there. But, whenever they're saying to him, don't freeze, and he says, I never freeze, and then he sees, his lover, and, he does get choked up a little bit. That's fun. That's endearing. That's, again, we're drawing parallels here. The scene where Claw is, extracted and Black Panther jumps on top of that grenade. Did anybody else have Captain America the First Avenger flashback?
Absolutely.
So cool. And then again, going back to that kinetic shield, kind of tying everything up, the suit absorbs that and then he uses it. I think that's cool.
Speaking of those kind of parallels, did you get the good parallel towards the end where he takes, is it Kilgrave?
Killmonger.
Sorry, Killmonger.
Jessica Jones is what you're thinking.
Yeah, I just totally did that. But when he takes Killmonger out to see Wakanda, because his whole life, that's all he really wanted. And as he's dying, Black Panther, T'Challa takes Killmonger out to look at it. And I got a very, very Lion King type feel, which, I mean, it wasn't a bad thing. Lion King's a great movie, but it was a parallel that just kind of popped into my head when I was watching. I don't know if it was intended. I don't know if it was just me, but just wanted to mention it.
And talking about Killmonger, too, just what a great villain. The best kind of villains are the ones that you don't agree with, you don't root for them, but you understand.
He was very well fleshed out, a lot of depth. His father was murdered by T'Challa's father. I mean, that is...
It's powerful.
It is, especially for the reasons and how they reasoned through that and how he rationalized leaving Killmonger behind as a child to grow up alone in Oakland, California. And again, for me, that kind of leads to the fact that I think this is one of the most adult films that's been made for the Marvel Universe because it touches on a lot of cultural themes that we have not in the past seen.
We got to talk about the new characters. Who was your guys' favorite character?
For me, it was M'Baku.
Yeah, totally.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess we wrapped that up quick.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah, he was. I think all three of us would agree on that one. And it's, again, because we talked about character development. I love the fact that he is the one who's willing to challenge on what should just be a passing on.
It's like a ritual. Yeah.
It is. So it's like, oh, well, everybody will say no and it'll just move on. Instead, he challenges. Even though this is a monarchy, the fact that it also takes on some aspects of a democratic republic. It might actually be closer to an oligarchy in some respects because you invite all the tribes in to make this vote. But he's challenged, which means that you have a direct running of sorts between two parties. But then he's also the one who ultimately rescues T'Challa. And when offered the opportunity to become the next king via the ritual, he takes them to T'Challa and says, we found him. But also honoring his own throne, I'm not coming to help you.
Yeah.
This is my kingdom, and I will do as I choose to do with my man. And
he didn't want to sacrifice his own people for someone else's fight. I mean, you have to respect someone who looks out for their own people above their own interests.
The way that M'Baku gives that line and says that he's not going to help, I totally believed, like, okay, we're done with him for the film. And then he comes back, and it's awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And with that, I think we're going to bring Black Panther to a close. I really had fun with this movie, getting immersed in the world of Wakanda with a character we met not too terribly long ago in Captain America Civil War. Was really fun. It was great to see T'Challa again. It was great to meet his friends along the way. And I guess my biggest thing is it was fun to be immersed in the world of Wakanda. Thumbs up from me. Guys?
There were parts of it that were really good for me. I mean, I loved seeing T'Challa again, one of my favorite characters. There's just parts of it that kind of took me out of it every once in a while, so it wasn't quite as enjoyable. But, you know, I'll look forward to maybe seeing it again.
For me, like I mentioned before, it was the fact that it had so much hype around it that perhaps I allowed that to affect my viewing, and I've tried to not do that recently, and it's worked for me quite well. So perhaps I should have stayed away from the reviews a little bit. But it's very difficult for anything to live up to that kind of hype at a 98% rating as of right now on Rotten Tomatoes. And for me, there's never been a perfect film made. Even my favorite films still have flaws, just like there's never been a perfect paper written or a perfect song in a lot of respects. So in that respect, that's my only concern, is that maybe there was too much hype. So I don't want people to be disappointed when they see it. I think they need to go in and just simply enjoy it for what it is. A well-made film that is challenging a lot of what Marvel claims to be Marvel and expanding on that universe.
I love that synopsis. This movie has taken what the Marvel, formula is, turned it on its head, and done something completely new with it. And if nothing else, that makes for a fun time at the theater for me. I'm excited to see it again. I am really excited to see what they'll do with Black Panther and Wakanda. We know that in Infinity War, we have some scenes in Wakanda, so it'll be interesting. Yep. Some theories I've heard is that maybe the Soul Stone is planted below where the herb is that Black Panther has to drink before he can connect with the ancestors. Maybe that stone has been, going to the herb, and that's what's been powering it or something. And so that's why Thanos...
Fantastic.
Had not heard that.
Fantastic theory.
Yeah. So maybe that's why Thanos is going to Wakanda, and that could be the final stand, I don't know. We'll find out in May. So with that, we're going to go ahead and bring Black Panther to a close. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in week to week to the Dude Seriously Show. Every week we've been going through and doing each MCU film in the order that it was released, and Black Panther has snuck its way in there. We couldn't pass up the opportunity to review the film while it's out in theaters, and I think our consensus is go see it. It's absolutely awesome on the big screen. See it in IMAX. Don't be foolish like Tim and I. See it in IMAX. And let us know what you thought of Black Panther. So be sure to tune in next week for our next episode of the Dude Seriously Show's Road to Infinity War. And Dude Seriously, we'll see you on the next one. Do 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 do.